Welcome, New York, from Encinitas, California. This is Kent Mesplay, one of our Green Party presidential candidates. I thank you for having me on today. Those of you who know me know that I've been talking about how important it is to live sustainably for a long time now. When we live sustainably, we tend to not extract the resources from others. Sustainability really factors into nonviolence. It factors into so many of our Green Party key values. I've also been an outspoken activist as far as climate change, how we really need to prepare, and that we haven't done this. This is a major health and safety issue that we are grossly unprepared for as a society. The good news is that most green solutions really make sense, and one is for us to live a life of less consumption. When we do that, we're better prepared for emergencies. We're also better able to look after ourselves and not wait for the government to help us during events such as Katrina and other natural disasters. So while our nominee apparent has been talking about a federal jobs program, which is important and does have some merit, the criticism of that is that it would take funds that aren't currently available. We need more than a green president. We need a green Congress. We need more of you in the audience, and I know some of you have run for local office before, more of you to run for local office. This way we can affect the legislation to bring about a Green New Deal. The problem is in this economy, there's so much resistance to increasing taxes, even to a fair level of taxation. Also, trimming the federal budget takes time, and that too is met with resistance in this day and age. So my approach is that we need to meet this top-down federal jobs program approach with a ground level up approach that really builds our local communities. That we need to do this now. I mean, there are important reasons to talk about what a green president would do and what a green Congress could do. But with climate change, this really is a health and security issue. And the solutions really make sense, and that's partly why they're a threat to the powers that be. For example, when we live lives of less consumption, what happens is that we implement features that make us better off. For example, when our buildings are more energy efficient, we not only save on energy costs, but we're better prepared for disasters, such as when there are power outages. And we had one here in California in September that got a lot of people to think, at least for a short while, and then they went on about their normal daily routines. So these umbilical cords of natural gas and water and electricity can readily be cut during an emergency, whether it's a natural one or one that's basically engineered. There are practical solutions, such as having a local script, going to trade and barter. I've been talking about how we need a hybrid economy. We can't just have the same labor market that we have. That's showing itself to not work. Even with changes that could be done using standard economic models, it's too little too late, and also our basic way of life is flawed in that people really aren't able to take care of themselves anymore. We've lost a lot of basic skills, so we need to rebuild communities. One idea is that we really need to have community gardens around schools. Schools are natural evacuation centers. During an emergency, rather than moving kids away from schools, schools become evacuation centers. So if we grew more of our own food, had the students involved, had the community involved, then we would have that level of protection at the ground level. We also instill in students a lifelong love for learning and for reconnecting with the earth. So what I'm talking about are some fairly fundamental cultural changes that the Greens have been talking about for a long time, and that we really need to bring into play as quickly as possible. If we look internationally at what's going on, for example, in Africa with the bushmeat trade, for example, in Ghana, where people rely on fish and fish stocks are down, and during the times that fish isn't available, people are slaughtering the wildlife. This is a problem worldwide. We really haven't designed very well, and the United States needs to take a key position, being a good role model, which we currently are not. Much of the world just knows about the United States, what they see, for example, on television, creates an inaccurate picture. It doesn't show how many people are on the streets, how we have inadequate health care. I'm, of course, an advocate of single-payer health care. These are things that we have talked about for a long time. So when I say sustainability equals security, I really mean it. I've had a long time to think about how to frame our message so that we don't just come across as being, left-wing peanuts way on the far left. We're not. As a party, we're very balanced, and we offer solutions that, when framed correctly, for example, when we discuss what we're about in security terms, and we bring that more to the center and to the center-right. And my concern right now is that our primary messages seem to make us look as though we're very strongly a socialist party, and there is that strong element. But we're also a party that that advocates decentralization, which touches more on libertarian issues. So, we can reach out to libertarians, especially those who recognize that climate change is a threat. And libertarians, as a rule, take a really bare-bones approach to government. So we have to achieve that balance of local control and federal control / help. And that's where, when we get a Green into the debate, should Jill get into the debates, and it's very likely that she will, that we bring about these issues so that we appear to be the truly balanced party that we are. I've had some recent successes I want to share with you in wrapping up here. Some of you know I've been a long-term advocate for indigenous people, for Native Americans. I was in Arizona last weekend on the Hopi Reservation, and these people live in a desert and they practice dry farming. We can learn a lot about sustainability by paying attention to what cultures such as the Hopi have known for countless generations. Really, this is a time of internet aspects, how we lack purchasing power, for example. But it's a crisis of culture. We need to get back to the garden. When people have 10% of their time trimmed when they're forced vacations, that 10% ought to go into growing a garden, into strengthening the local community. In the upcoming months, I expect and I plan to do further outreach. I'm very happy with the progress I've made. It takes a long time to develop trust among Native Americans after genocide, and this is what's happening. I'm talking to more and more people on the reservations, and what I really intend to contribute to the Green Party is to get the vote in Indian country in the general election, because we either get the votes or we get off the ballots. And Jill has done a wonderful job as far as working with her teams to get us ballot access. Roseanne has brought, actually overall, some very positive attention to the Green Party, so she is doing what she can to help. And I think my contributions are known in terms of social justice issues as far as Native people go, and also being a scientist by training and being very concerned about climate change. Also, I work day to day. I put on my steel-toed boots. I'm a government regulator, enforcement officer in the compliance division of the Air Pollution Control District. So I see what businesses are going through, and we're in trouble. I think many people there listening to me know this. But we need to take action, and not just talk about how we can change things. And again, even if we get a Green New Deal in place, one of the first features of that Green New Deal ought to be to work toward having community gardens. We should be growing food absolutely everywhere. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir when I say the Green Party is about reformation. We're trying to change a flawed, corrupt political system, even as we work within it. And so we're in it for the long haul. and we're doing a lot of good. I think this is a great year for the Green Party. I'm proud to be a Green. I would appreciate ongoing support because I'm continuing in this process of doing outreach and of talking about green issues in whatever way I can. Should I receive the funding, I will take time off work and be an activist full time. That's what I look forward to doing, especially on the reservations. So with the Native people, there are problems with, for example, in Arizona, John McCain trying to take away their water rights. There are problems of sacred sites being desecrated. These are ongoing issues, and as Greens, we tend to give voice to those who are otherwise voiceless. So again, I'm proud to be a Green. I hope your meeting is going quite well, and please look into mesplay.org, and I look forward to ongoing participation as a Green. With the Green Party, we are here to stay. Thank you very much, New York. This is Kent Mesplay in Encinitas, California. We are already in a deep economic collapse. I think what many people don't realize is that no economist wants us to have 100% employment. That competitive aspect that's brought in when people are hungry for work is part of our system. Unfortunately, we lack the social safety nets. Those are increasingly frayed. What I would put in its place would naturally have to be phased in. I'm not talking about abrupt changes. What I'm talking about is having incentives by changing the tax code. I'm talking about incentives for investment in a stable economic climate that recognizes that bang for the buck, increasing energy efficiency is the best way to go. The most green buildings are those that are already built. We need to retrofit. So our focus needs to be on this. There's no magic bullet. What I'm talking about is raising the basic baseline of security that we have as citizens, so that when push comes to shove, we still have housing for people, that food is available. Food prices are going to continue to climb. So again, it's this hybrid approach that I've been advocating. We need to, especially by talking about it, but also by encouraging our officials to be advocates, to take this approach wherein we have more community gardens, we support local agriculture. Really, we have solutions to most of our problems. We lack the political will, and most of the solutions really are through local answers, by knowing who your neighbors are, knowing who has the skills, moving toward local script. In other words, getting out of the economy, having not so much a black market, but let's call it a green market, that at least takes up the slack, that prepares us better for emergencies. I believe we are in not just a recession, but we are in a depression. I don't see this turning around anytime soon. And that's in part from years as an inspector, looking at what's happening at these small businesses that I inspect. People are putting more and more of their life savings trying to just keep their business afloat. They're laying off workers. Some places that have had 55 workers now only have 5 workers. What are they going to do? Well, the answer is obvious. They should be at the very least growing their own food. But I mean, this sounds like a simplistic approach, but we're living way too high on the hog. We need also to move toward vegetarianism, because that has a smaller footprint on the planet. I'm not yet. I'm not a purist. I'm still an omnivore. But when you look at what's happening to the oceans, you look at what's happening to wildlife, and you look at how people increasingly are not able to even afford food, we really need to grow our own food and eat lower on the food chain, for health reasons too. It just makes sense. And I'm not speaking as a purist. So these aren't simplistic solutions. These are just common sense. Organic agriculture, organic gardening used to be the way things were naturally done, because we didn't have the petrochemicals. So what I'm talking about is radical simplicity, living with a smaller ecological footprint, sharing more, using our resources better, and also using market forces. For example, requiring companies to take their packaging back, looking at more of the full cycle costs of our product life. I was just abhorred when I was younger, and I learned that products are designed to fail. We need to move away from this, but it's going to take a whole lot of conscious effort and a whole lot of activism. So thanks. That's a good question. Thanks, Tom. Okay. Well, with voting, I believe that we need to make participation in our political system much more accessible. I believe in same-day registration. I also believe that even those who are felons need to be allowed to participate more, especially those who were unduly persecuted. I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs of the Voting Rights Act, but what I've seen is that people of color tend to be excluded from our political process. I know that in Florida and elsewhere, it wasn't that Nader was in the race, it was that the system was basically rigged. So I'll be looking more into that. That's a very good question. But basically, we need greater access wherever possible, including for homeless people who don't have a home address from which to vote. Our system really is geared more toward the 1%. Let's see, you'd ask about Haiti and the genocide. There's no simple solution. We really do need a form of planetary governance, but the UN comes up short. There's also corruption within the United Nations, and this isn't well known. So it's too bad that's the case, that we don't have a true international force that, of course, can work wherever possible in a nonviolent manner. This is one of my lifetime dreams, that we have such a system of governance. So regarding the genocide in Haiti, I really don't have a very strong answer. Part of the reason that we see conflict worldwide is because of the influence of the United States, and this isn't readily addressed. Our policies, our trade policies, are harmful to foreign countries, and really, if you talk about the WTO and NAFTA and these other agreements and agencies, they're really set up to force through this Western way of life, which is based on unsustainable consumption. There are quite a few questions in there. I'll be doing a little more research after we're done. Thanks, Coley. Good questions. Okay, thank you. Okay, have a good meeting.